Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Found Purpose. I'm your host, Cortland Fields. Let's get into it. So I want to switch gears a little bit. So we talked about a lot of things about narcolepsy, depression, and mental health, but a lot of times what I get from people, especially young adults, even older adults, about the mental and physical abuse. Now, what really bothers me about all this is because I have daughters that's young, and you hear about men putting their hands on women. What can a person do as a young woman to build that self-esteem? Because I feel like sometimes when you allow yourself into those certain situations, it's coming from wrong. It's coming from a lack of self-esteem from somewhere that is allowing you to take that type of abuse. Can you hint on that a little bit?
Yes, abuse is a really tough piece to navigate. And I believe before you can talk about abuse and where that comes from, you have to back the train up a little bit and talk about understanding boundaries. Right? Because if you have certain levels of boundaries for yourself, you aren't going to be in a situation where you're navigating and dealing with abuse, right? For example, in my private practice office, one of the first things that we talk about after I say all behavior is purposeful is I ask, well, what kind of boundaries do you have? And if I asked you that question, usually the comeback that I get is, what do you mean? Okay, so boundaries, there's different types of boundaries, right? When we think about boundaries, we think about space. Like, I don't want someone in my space, right? That's a boundary. We also have intellectual boundaries, right? We have financial boundaries, right? We have digital boundaries, right? There's a lot of boundaries that people don't understand. People just think, hey, what's your boundary? Hey, it's my physical proximity, but it's more than that. So I spend a session or two on helping my clients understand boundaries.
I feel that to have those boundaries, you need to understand your emotions. To put boundaries and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. And if a person is being abused, and for the viewer, for the listener who is being abused, who is, I guess you could be any age, because at a certain point in your life, you just don't know when it's going to hit. But as a young adult, guys or girls, what do you say that to a person who is being in that situation where they're probably being physically abused, but more so mentally abused?
I think part of that is understanding that emotional or psychological abuse and what it means. So what I like to explain is when you're dealing with emotional or psychological, you're dealing with insults. You're so stupid. How do you not understand that, right? You deal with threats. Well, if you don't get it together, I'm going to tell your friend X, Y, and Z about you. Isolation, right? I'm going to put you in situations where you're getting in an argument and or a fight with your family or your friends. So all you have is me, right? Extreme jealousy. I get that a lot dealing with young adults. It's, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friend and we're going to go to club or whatever. And then he pops up and he doesn't say anything, but he's in this corner kind of stalking, right? That's psychological abuse right there. And one of the biggest ones is controlling behavior. A lot of females that I work with will go into relationships thinking that this man is chivalrous and he doesn't want me to work and he's going to pay for things and do this and this and that. A part of that, there are genuine, chivalry is not dead in my mind. There are genuine men who genuinely have that masculine presence and they want to care and support their queen to the fullest. But unfortunately, we deal with controlling females as well as men. But the controlling aspect is, I don't want you to work. I want you to stay home and raise the kids and this, that, and the other. So now I make all the money so I can control how you move and what you're able to do. And it goes back to what my earlier comment was. But unless you know that that is happening, you just think, oh, he just wants me to be able to stay at home and raise the kid, right? You don't recognize it until you're all the way in it, that now I'm being controlled and psychologically manipulated and not being compassionately loved and cared for and supported.
Okay, so let's reverse it. As the abuser, because if you were talking to the person that does the abuse, that is being manipulative, what can they do to help themselves?
It would go back to all behavior is purposeful. What is it that you need? What is happening that is making you want to control your partner, diminish your partner, threaten your partner, financially not allow them to buy what they want when they want? Like, what is happening, right?
Do you think it's a trust issue?
It could be trust. It could be similar behaviors that they experienced growing up. There's a lot to unpack. to determine why someone treats someone else the way that they treat them. Usually it has to do with a sense of control. So someone doesn't leave me because I am not confident. My self-esteem is so low. I want to do whatever I have to keep my hooks in this person. So I will always have someone with me, even if it's a toxic relationship.
Now, I need you to answer this question, because a lot of times people feel in any relationship, gay relationships, straight relationships, whatever relationship you're in, that I can fix this person. If I stick around, I don't want to abandon them because been abandoned before, they've been rejected. I want to be there for them.
What I have found in situations like that is understanding if I'm in this situation and I care about somebody, right? It's not my responsibility to fix you. I'm a therapist and I don't go around fixing my friends. I will say, how can I help you? How can I support you? But your situation is not for me to make my issue. That is your issue that you're dealing with. I love you and I care about you and I want to be there for you. But I'm not going to take on what you have to fix it my way, because that may not be what you want, if you even want help right now.
So how do you tell your clients, like, you can't fix the person, you have to think about yourself first?
Self-care is not the same thing as selfishness, and that's how I phrase it. You taking care of yourself and navigating your healing, or you're in a healthy space now and you're looking for a partner, when you are healed and you're in a place where you have done your work and you're putting yourself back out there to have connection and partnership, you can't chase potential, right? So if I meet you and you have this great potential, but you are still broken and you're still working on yourself and all of that, I'm going to tell you, I like our vibe so much, but it seems like you still have some healing to do. You have my phone number. As you're navigating your stuff, if I see you out, I will say hi. I would love to get a cup of coffee with you, but I'm not going to get into a relationship with someone that is still in a place of healing. It's not my job to fix you. It's my job to fix myself and help maintain my own positive mental health. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your doctor. I'm here for you in every capacity. I can't work harder for you than you are working harder for yourself.
Now, you also have the type where the fixer know they toxic. The abuser know he's toxic. You put them together and they know that, because it's like, I'm going to use all his triggers to make him stay, and I'm going to use all her triggers to keep me around. How is this possible? For the people out there, because I know you have to know that you're in a toxic relationship. You have to know you're doing a tug of war with the individual. So how do you navigate that and say, you know what? We got to fix it because we can't do it. Because you know you can't do this. You know you're in a toxic. You know you're abusing each other. You cannot say, I don't know I'm abusing her or she's abusing me. Speak to the ones that need to pull themselves away, to find the boundary, to pull themselves away so they can make a healthier relationship.
Yeah. Usually two toxic people that are refusing to recognize the toxicity, that relationship will eventually fizzle. And the hurt and the pain and the distress that comes along with that, that's going to be something that's added to your emotional basket that you're going to have to process and heal from before you can genuinely get into a healthy relationship, if that's what you're truly seeking. To answer your question is, I always ask, and I don't care what age you are, I always say, if you had a child that came to you and said, Mom, Dad, this is what's happening to me at home, how would you respond to that? Not about ourselves. I'm strong. I'm going to take a lot more than I would want my child to take, right? But if your child came to you and said, Dad, my boyfriend is beating me up every night if I don't bring him a beer, this, that, or the other, we would immediately be like, oh, absolutely not. But I want that same thought process for ourselves. We are our worst critics. And if we're depressed or we're anxious or we don't feel worthy, then it's okay that we're abused. It's okay that we're in a toxic relationship because I'm not deserving. That shame and that guilt that we feel is one of the first things that has to be broken down and understood. If you move with guilt and shame, you aren't ever going to be in a place where you can see yourself worthy of any kind of healthy and whole relationship. But we are all deserving of that.
What techniques will you advise a person that has insecurities and that is taking the abuse of feeling less value, or they are the abuser? Because I feel like they have insecurities as well. If I'm insecure, how can I start the process of making myself be secure within myself?
Right. I love that. I think being able to look at ourselves in the mirror and be congruent. And what that means is my words match my actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are looking at yourself, I want you to 100% be authentic in what you see. If you see this beautifully broken person, I've identified, now I'm breaking it down. What do I feel is broken about me? I was in that relationship. I had that abortion. I had a pregnancy, a child that I gave up for adoption. I was raped and no one believed me, right? I did drugs and did things that no one would think of to get money to foster that drug relationship. All of that is the cards and the hands that we've been dealt, but our mistakes don't dictate our future. Right? Our past doesn't dictate our future, right? So getting to that understanding, hey, if this was this magic wand and the world was in a place where you are healthy and whole and solid, what would you look like? Who would be in your life? I go through all these things, right? Is the person that's abusing you in this moment that you're in this abusive relationship, is that person with you? Or do you have someone else and you're just with that person because you don't want to be by yourself? The layers go deep and deep and deep because people will stay in toxic relationships because the fear of the unknown is so much more impactful than the toxic trait that I know how to navigate right here.
Let's take it back to sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be like one of the layers that person has insecurities. Mm-hmm. Now, if they pulling back these layers and saying, okay, because I feel like you have to work at one by one, like, okay, why are you feeling so insecure? Because I was molested, or because I was touched, or because I was raped. What is the navigation of getting myself in and saying, okay, accept it. I can't change it.
When we're talking about like sexual assault and sexual abuse, the shame and guilt comes along with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel shameful that happened to me because naturally a perpetrator is going to say, if you say anything, I'm going to tell your mom and dad that you wanted it. I'm going to tell your friends and da 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 da. So now I'm struggling with what I'm being told as a young child, teenager, or whatever. I'm going to ruin your career. I mean, all the things going around.
Like people going to know about it and what they're going to think of you.
Exactly. So now I feel shameful that it happened to me, and I feel guilty that if I say anything, then this whole career is going to be ruined, right? So when you're dealing with sexual assault and tapping into them understanding, you have to start with, that was not your fault. I don't care if you ran around butt naked in front of the bar back and forth, unless no means no. If you are saying, yes, I will sleep with you, yes, I give you permission to X, Y, and Z, then that's one thing. If you say no, but you're dressed provocatively and it doesn't, to me, the answer was no. I don't care what I'm wearing. I don't care how long my eyelashes were, what color lipstick I had on. I said, no, I'm not interested in you. Just because I look a certain way doesn't give you the right to do that. So we go into, hey, well, not even why did you wear that? Because those questions come up a lot. I'll have clients say, well, the therapist said, well, why was I dressed that way? And I was like, well, that's irrelevant. But what'd you say?
Right.
Oh, well, I was going out to, that has no reference to you being responsible for your behavior, and the other person that violated you, that was on them. That had nothing to do with you, right? And you don't step into the victim mentality. You want them to have the victim mentality. You want them to have a survivor mentality. This happened to me, but this isn't my whole life.
Now, what about the ones that is the family member, right? And they go, okay, you wanted it, and everybody says I was this hot, pissy, because the way I act, that I deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I tell anybody, then I'm going to feel like no one's going to believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all a part of like telling yourself no matter what it was or did not agree?
Right. If you could have started the situation and you could have started making out with somebody and then hands started going up the shirts and down the pants, whatever it is. And then you say, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to do this. Then now the answer becomes no. I don't care that I started with you. My answer still became no. So once the answer is no in your mind, out of your mouth, everything that happens thereafter is now classified as a sexual assault. Period. And that is a violation of my boundaries, my space, And you can be criminally liable for that. And getting people to the point, even years later, statutes of limitations come in a lot, even years later, where they go through therapy and they're in a place where they're like, that was not okay. And I want to make sure that this person never does anything to anybody else. So if they can do it to me, chances are that they would be willing to do it to somebody else. And they have people by their sides. There's so many survivor advocates that will go to court with victims that are doing their court and have those trials, because the defense attorneys will try to make them out to be this fast person around town, and you're wanting it, and you've had all these dates, and you dress provocatively, and they're going to pull up your sexual history. I don't care if you've slept with 100 people, but your body count is deep. In that particular moment, if you said no, then the answer was no. And you now can say, I have been sexually assaulted and there are consequences for that behavior. What your past does not dictate your future.
So to help them get through it and to help them get through that part to feel secure about themselves and the way they feel about themselves is basically like just really accept it, have a cry it out or whatever.
It's understanding their level of their own thinking. So when you think about how you navigate through this, you're validating self-esteem, you're validating that the situation happened. You are slowly building confidence in them as a person. That can take 6 months, that could take a year, it could be 10 years, it could be lifelong counseling just to navigate that one particular trauma. So there's not one, here's the magic wand fix for everybody. Everybody's situation is different because you don't know how they grew up. You don't know what their reference of understanding is. You don't know what their upbringing and what they've been taught. Everybody is different in session. So if I have 3 clients in a row and they're all dealing with anxiety, each session will be different because of the things that they bring to the session.
What would you say to a person who has been sexually assaulted but have not told their partner, and they know that this is causing like a rift maybe in a relationship or something like that, or they feel like they're keeping a secret from the relationship? What would be the best option to have that difficult conversation with them and say, hey, listen, this happened to me?
Usually that is a trust situation. So if there is difficulty sexually in the intimacy part of relationships, if I'm dealing with a client, I say, what do you want this to look like? Do you want to have a better intimate relationship with, or do you feel like eventually this person will step away from you? Usually if someone is coming to therapy, they've experienced someone stepping away because they are navigating this assault and it's affected their intimacy with their partner. So by the time they get to me or another clinician, you've been in a time that this situation has affected you enough that you're saying, hey, I'm ready to navigate and deal with this so I can move on and have healthy and whole relationships. I have had situations where I have said, how do you feel about inviting your partner in and we can maybe tell them together? Then it's a conversation that you can continue at home, but in this these 4 walls, a safe place for you, we can start the conversation. I'm very good at starting conversations, and then, hey, you take it home. I'm going to continue to see my client, ask how things are going, and then maybe bring their partner back in next month. Hey, how has it been for you since this information has been? I want to actually have sex, but I'm practicing different types of intimacy so he feels safe or she feels safe. And then they grow back into the sexual intimacy part, which, is very pivotal in relationships for a lot of people.
Do you see a lot of clients that will make it through that trial and error that they're going through if that was the case?
Yes, and I think understanding what kind of partner that you have, because not every partner is able to navigate and understand your level of trauma. We say in sickness and in health, but sometimes when people get sick, the other partner can't handle it, right? The same thing, if I know that you have been victimized in some way, am I going to see you as a survivor, or am I going to see you as a fragile puppy every time that I look at you? You're this fragile flower, and that's going to be hard for me because I'm looking for someone that's strong and can ride with me and do all these things with me. You also recognize in your own vulnerability if you have a partner that is a ride or die partner, or if you're going to, if you see, I love this person, but this person isn't going to be able to love me the way that I need to be loved through this piece of trauma that is always going to forever be a part of my life.
Right.
I may not be triggered by it like I used to because I'm healing through it, but if it's always going to be an issue, then part of that strength and that growth and that survivor mentality is recognizing what kind of partner I have, and am I going to stay with that partner, or do I need to seek a different partner that moves differently than this one?
That is great. And just to tie it up, to conclude, as a found purpose, people that's trying to get through this whole thing called life, what is some of the advice, encouraging words that you can give to the listening audience?
I am very big on the idea that we all need to be a little more gentle with ourselves, right? We are in this world navigating things that are out of our control. And the things that are in our control, we do the best that we can, right? And so I will leave your viewers and you with, do your best to be gentle with yourself, to teach something and learn something every day, right? And put yourself in a situation where you can always see tomorrow as a means of a new start, a fresh start, always remembering that joy comes in the morning. Right? If you wake up and you just take the moments to just be with nature, that's such a healthy part of mental health. Physical exercise is a great part of positive mental health. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to be lifting weights. You can go walk your dog. You can take a trip around the block. You can do whatever. So physical, it doesn't have to be, I'm doing things. I like to work out. It makes me feel good. I do Muay Thai, kickboxing, all that. That feels good to my bones and my mindset. But everybody is different. Don't just feel like you're alone. There's going to be always someone that you connect with, whether it's a clinician online. I work with the BetterHelp platform. I work with the Grow platform, where you could do telehealth. I have clients that I just text, right? I don't ever see them. They just text me, and I have clients that I talk to on the phone. Whatever your capacity is, and wherever a clinician or someone can meet you at the level that you are, don't feel like there's not someone that connect with you. If it's not, I'm gonna knock on your door and come sit on your sofa and talk to you for 50 minutes, but maybe I can text you and we can connect that way. Start the process of healing if you know that you are in a place of healing.
Thank you so much for doing this. This has been a great episode. I do hope you do come back and we talk some more, because I can talk to you about mental health like all day.
And I would be happy to talk about it. I love it. I always tell you how proud of you I am. It is very difficult to speak on mental health and to be a beautiful Black man to talk about mental health is even more taboo. So the fact that you are doing all the things, you're inviting listeners in, you have amazing guests, you're talking about things that are meaningful and necessary for us to be able to navigate life. I'm always going to ride with you and support you 100% of the time.
Thank you. I do feel like men need a place where they can learn. And sometimes it's hard for us to ask for help because of our pride and our egos. But I always tell people, you could be damaged, broken, or shattered. All things are fixable. Let's start healing in the heart and let Jesus take care of the rest. This is Found Purpose, and thank you once again. This has been another episode of Found Purpose. Remember, your spirit is never too broken, shattered, or damaged where it can't be fixed. Put God first and everything is fixable. Let's start healing in the spirit.